The streak is snapped. The Sacramento Kings fall at home, blow a 21-point lead to a very shorthanded Philadelphia 76ers team. There are two reasons why tonight's game was a can't-lose game. We'll go over those, plus the bad, the worse, and the ugly from this Kings loss. It's all right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all regular season long today, presented by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports reporter and producer for ABC 10, standing here on the floor inside the Golden One Center. It's been a place of a lot of joy and satisfaction for Sacramento Kings fans. It's also been the place of some of the worst losses, actually I would say most of the worst losses of the season for the Kings. Finding out how to defend your home floor and be consistent at home is one of the key factors to being a great team. Of course, the Kings are trying to bridge that gap between good and great, and who knows if that's something they reasonably can accomplish this season. Maybe they need to go through heartbreak in the playoffs or bad loss after bad loss like this, whether it's on the road or on your home floor. But honestly, the last time the Sacramento Kings lost a game, it was in this building against the Los Angeles Lakers. That was before, of course, the Kings went on their 6-game road trip. After that game, I was very down on the Kings. I was very frustrated with where the Kings were at. They had started that 5-game homestand 0-2. Of course, they were able to salvage that homestand, make it 3-2 by winning their next 3 games. But I was not in a good spot. I was not a happy camper from a Kings perspective. And a lot of you told me, hey, Matt, cool it a little bit, take it easy. Especially with the way the Kings won the Orlando Magic game the next night, still wasn't very pleased about that win or how the Kings won that game. But still, they managed to pull it out. They managed to win it, and people are telling me, cool it. It's okay. It's fine. Well, now I feel like I'm playing that role a little bit tonight because this is a horrible loss. It's a really bad loss for the Sacramento Kings. It's only a disaster, though, if the Sacramento Kings don't learn from it, and I'll get into that a little bit more later on in the pod. But it's a bad loss. There's no way to spin it. There's no silver lining. It is a bad loss, and I'm going to share with you the 2 reasons why this was a can't-lose game for the Sacramento Kings in just a second. However, the Philadelphia 76ers are a damn good basketball team, and I'm also going to give them a lot of credit in this podcast too, because I think it's important analyzing this game to give the opponent the appropriate credit it deserves in the context of this loss for the Sacramento Kings. And I do appreciate that the Sacramento Kings played really good basketball over the course of this win streak, including coming off of 2 really good wins in Los Angeles and then last night over the Oklahoma City Thunder, in which the Philadelphia 76ers were here in Sacramento, staying at the Sawyer, resting and waiting for the Kings. I have that context to make me feel a little bit better or make this loss a little more affordable. Maybe you disagree with that point. Again, we're getting into all of it in tonight's podcast. But there are 2 major can't lose this game moments for the Sacramento Kings tonight, and I'll share with you those 2. Number 1, yesterday's expectations. This morning's expectations are not tip-offs expectations. What I mean by that, we found out about half an hour before game time, maybe a little less than that, honestly, that both James Harden and Joel Embiid, who were questionable for the game, would not be playing. My expectation when I woke up this morning, my expectation when I went to bed last night was the 76ers are going to be a very difficult win for the Kings on this home floor. Whether you want to factor in second night of a back-to-back or not, factor in how bad they beat the Sacramento Kings in Philadelphia earlier on this season. I think it was in December. There were a million reasons why I thought this was going to be a very tough win for the Kings. Not an impossible win, but a very tough win. My expectation as of last night and as of this morning was if the Kings win this game, they'll have to squeak it out or steal it, but the 76ers should be the favorite and probably would get this win. As soon as we found out that Joel Embiid and James Harden were out, you're damn right, expectations changed. Kings should win this game. They absolutely should win this game when they're at full strength for the most part. And the Philadelphia 76ers are missing their 2 bona fide stars. Even if the rest of this roster is really good and deserves a lot of credit, which we're going to get into again, the Kings absolutely have to win this game. That's number 1. Number 2, no matter which team you're playing, no matter if their stars are healthy or their stars are out. If you are up 21 points on your home floor, you cannot, under any circumstance, lose that game. We see comebacks happen all the time. Basketball is a game of runs. And in the modern era of the NBA with so many points and three-point shooting and things like that, a 21-point lead is not as big as it used to be. It's still pretty big, especially when you're the home team. And when the Kings are as in control as they were in that first half, they cannot blow this lead. There is no excuse, especially not tired legs. I am not here for the tired leg excuse. Now, if you want to make an observation that the Kings are playing the second night of a back-to-back and the Philadelphia 76ers are rested, did not play last night. If you want to make that observation and make the observation watching the game that the Kings look a little more gassed or look a little more tired and the 76ers look a little more fresh, if you want to make that observation, sure, I see that too. It's not an excuse for me. Not an excuse to blow a 21-point lead, especially with the amount of times this season that teams that are worse than the Sacramento Kings, I'm talking about the Washington Wizards and the Charlotte Hornets, both of them came into this building on the second nights of back-to-backs. In both of those games, the Kings were the rested team, and the Kings lost those games on this home floor. So forgive me, I do not accept tired legs as an excuse for the Sacramento Kings blowing a 21-point lead and losing this game to the short-handed Philadelphia 76ers. And even if Joel Embiid and James Harden had played, if the Kings were up 21 and they blew a lead to Joel Embiid and James Harden's 76ers, I still wouldn't accept tired legs as an acceptable excuse. You should not lose games where you're up 21 on your home floor to any competition, period, if you want to call yourself a good or especially great team in the NBA. Now, can that 21-point lead shrink down to 10 or get down to single digits? Sure, but you should be able to still pull out that game on your home floor. If you want to be considered a great team in the NBA, you have to be able to do that, not just consistently, basically every night. You have to be able to do that. Flukes happen from time to time, but unfortunately, the Sacramento Kings aren't good enough and haven't played well enough for a long enough period of time to call a game like this a fluke yet. Let me walk you through the big comeback for the Philadelphia 76ers. Everybody's going to point to that third quarter, and rightfully so. The third quarter is where the 76ers really won this game. But this comeback for Philly actually started in the second quarter, and the Kings were dominating the second quarter. Early on in the second quarter, the Kings scored 11 points in the first 1 minute and 12 seconds of the second quarter. They came out of the first quarter break on fire. They would not miss. Harrison Barnes went 5 of 5 from three-point range, I think, in the first half. Like, he was lights out. The Kings were moving the ball really, really well. The ball movement was good. The energy was good. Defensively, they were playing well enough. But in the final couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes, of the second quarter, when the Sacramento Kings built up to a 21-point lead after the Sixers cut a Kings 17-point lead down to 8. So the Sixers made a little bit of a push early to mid second quarter. The Kings responded, got that back up to 19, which became 21, and they looked like they were in cruise control. Unfortunately, cruise control is not a setting or a mode that you can get away with against a team the caliber of the 76ers. They took full advantage and absolutely won the final couple minutes of the second quarter, closing that first half on a 14-3 run, which turned a big hole at halftime into just a 10-point deficit at halftime. 10 points in the NBA is absolutely nothing, especially with a full second half to play. That's where it started, and then the 76ers came out of the halftime break and continued to build upon that momentum. This is where we talk about the third quarter, right? The 76ers start the third quarter on a 25-12 run to ultimately tie the game, and then they turn what was a 21-point deficit into as high as an 11-point lead. The Kings were outscored in the third quarter 38-22. And there's a lot of reasons why the 76ers deserve a ton of credit for what they were able to do in the end of the second quarter and the beginning of the third quarter. I'm going to get into the giving the 76ers their credit and why that's important to analyze this game later on in the pod. The Kings were out-rebounded 45-29 in this game. Absolutely abused on the glass, and the 76ers abused the Kings on the glass without Joel Embiid playing. Absolutely inexcusable. That cannot happen. Domantas Sabonis didn't reach double digits in rebounds. He finished with 9 rebounds on the night. We thought he had a triple-double. They took a rebound away. Finished with 9 rebounds. I expect better from Domantas Sabonis in a game against the 76ers when Joel Embiid is not playing. I expect better from him. I expect better from Keegan Murray. I expect better from the bigs. I expect better from the guards. Everybody needed to do a significantly better job crashing the glass, especially on the defensive glass. The 76ers grabbed, let's see, I wrote it down. Where is it? 16 offensive rebounds. Their second chance points, 23 second chance points for Philly to 6 for the Sacramento Kings. You could point to that area on low and say that's where the Kings lost this game, but it's not. You combo that with the fact that the Kings gave up 70 points in the paint. Here's the points in the paint breakdown by quarter. In the first quarter, Philly scored 14 points in the paint. In the second quarter, which again, we consider to be the quarter that the Sacramento Kings pretty much dominated or had, it was their best quarter of the game offensively. The Kings gave up 26 points in the paint in just the second quarter. In the third quarter, the Kings gave up 18 points in the paint, and in the fourth quarter, the Kings gave up 12 points in the paint. 70 points in the paint in a game, again, with Joel Embiid and James Harden, who are masters at scoring around the rim and in the paint, is inexcusable. And that speaks to still how hard or how far the Sacramento Kings have to work and how far they still have to go in order to become a consistent defensive team. And in addition to that, the Kings' free throw shooting really let them down in the second half. They shot 22 of 29 from the line as a team in this game. 75%. Not horrible, not great. Something that we always talk about in close games, right? Leaving points at the foul line. In the second half, after shooting 13 of 14 from the free throw line in the first half, very, very strong performance from the line in the first half, the Kings shot 60%, 9 of 15 from the free throw line in the second half. They missed 4 straight free throws when they were falling apart in the third quarter. And then, of course, Harrison Barnes on this basket right here next to me was fouled. Basically, the 76ers gave the Kings a gift, down 3 with 4 seconds left. Harrison Barnes was fouled, has a chance to hit 3 free throws to send the game into overtime. Misses the first, makes the second, then goes for the intentional miss. Kings don't clean it up. Ball game ends. Kings lose 129-117. That free throw shooting killed the Kings, and you can point to a number of losses this season where the Sacramento Kings have fallen because their free throw shooting let them down. It's a combination of everything. All this is a combination of everything. But again, some people are going to want to really, not necessarily melt down, but are going to really have a hard time. This is a really tough pill to swallow for a lot of Kings fans, right? Considering they were up 21, considering the Philadelphia 76ers were shorthanded. By the way, kind of side note, remember, the 76ers came into the Golden One Center last year and their entire starting lineup rested, and they still beat the Kings. I'm not saying that to talk about how good the 76ers are. That's just a reminder of we've been through these games before, right? Plus, last year's Kings team was a disaster compared to this year's team. This game is really, truly, and I mean this, only a disaster for the Kings if they fail to learn from it. And we're not talking about lessons that they learn over the remainder of the season, and maybe they're a little bit better if they ever meet the Philadelphia 76ers in the playoffs, which would have to be the NBA Finals, so that's not happening. Or when they meet the 76ers next year, and if they've learned from these mistakes and yada yada. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Monday. The Kings play the Memphis Grizzlies on Monday. The Memphis Grizzlies have a guy named Steven Adams who absolutely destroys on the glass. Are the Kings going to get abused on the glass as bad as they were tonight by the Memphis Grizzlies on Monday? A game where the Kings are not going to be favored. The Grizzlies are expected to win that game. Are the Kings going to get killed in second chance points by the Grizzlies in that game? Are the Kings going to struggle from the free throw line? Are the Kings going to fall apart from the first half to the second half with what's going right? Are the Kings going to lose focus when up big and blow a big lead? All lessons that we expect the Sacramento Kings to learn and to incorporate, not in a week from now, but by Monday. That's what we have to see. But let me tell you this. Losses like this are going to be looked at closely when we're looking at the standings at the end of the season. I've talked a lot about that with the bad home loss to Washington, the bad home loss to Charlotte, the home loss to Atlanta, even that home loss to the Los Angeles Lakers, and now this loss to Philly. There's 5 home losses right there that I can point to, and we'll see when we reach playoff time, when we reach the end of the season, maybe the Kings end up being the 5th or 6th seed, and they're 3 to 5 games back of the 4th seed, which would guarantee you home court advantage for the opening round of the playoffs, and then we can directly point to these 5 games, right? We'll have to wait and see. But over the course of the regular season, I'll say this. Bad losses are going to happen no matter what, especially blown leads to good teams, whether you're on your home floor or not. Even if it's inexcusable, this is not an excuse. These losses happen for every single team every year. And I will say this, the fact that the Kings were on a 6-game win streak, it should have been 7 tonight, absolutely. But the fact that the Kings were on a 6-game win streak, the fact that they beat the Oklahoma City Thunder the way they did last night, and they beat the Los Angeles Lakers in LA the way they did Wednesday night, I'm not saying it makes this loss acceptable, it just makes it affordable. The Kings, because they've gotten their work done ahead of time, are able to take these punches in stride instead of these being knockout punches or standing 8 counts, right? The Kings can overcome losses like this. The Kings know that losses like this don't define them as a team. That is a positive. That is not a silver lining. That is not a moral victory, but that is something to keep into perspective. And I also think it's very important for us to get the perspective of what the Philadelphia 76ers did right. I'm going to get to that in the next segment. Before, though, we get to that, I want you to hear from both De'Aaron Fox and Mike Brown. I asked De'Aaron how does he think the team should respond, and how does he and the team, how do they respond directly, like right away, starting tomorrow? How do they respond to a bad loss like this? De'Aaron's going to answer that. And you're going to hear me ask Mike Brown about being honest and pointing out the honest truths, the honest failures to his team about what they did wrong tonight. De'Aaron, the highs and lows just of a regular season at this point in your career, what do you think is the best way for maybe you personally and then for the team to respond to a game like tonight?
I mean, you try to let this go. You try to work on, you try to focus what you can work on. And that was defending the paint for us and rebounding. Defending the paint has been a big thing for us in the games that we've done well. We've usually won. I think this is a step back from the last game that we had where we weren't good in the first quarter. The next 3 quarters we were good defensively. We were good not allowing them to score in our paint. And today was a step back. But, you try to let this one go and, get the next one.
And then this season, you've shared a lot with us about being honest with the team throughout. Can you share maybe some of the brutal honesty or what the honest message was to the team about tonight's performance?
No, in a nutshell, it's the same thing. I told him we didn't do a great job controlling the dribble drive, and when we got beat, you have to come help. And they had their big and the weak side dunker, so our big would come over to help. And they'd throw the ball up on the glass, and our weak side guard would literally stand there and watch Montrez or Paul get the ball and tip it back in, and we didn't fight. As that ball is going downhill, somebody has to go across to help trap the box or stop the ball. And so it's your job to get in there and stick your nose in there and fight with those guys on the backside, And I don't think we did it. We obviously didn't do it enough, And now there are other times too where literally the shot goes up, and instead of going to box out a man, we're turning and walking towards the rim like the ball's just going to fall in our hands. And it hits the rim and bounces right over our head, right into their lap, and swing, 3, And so when they get a couple of those, their confidence level goes up. Now they know that they have a chance to be in the game. And so it was just a physical game that we did not win when it came to rebounding the basketball.
Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast, like I mentioned at the top of the show, is brought to you by LinkedIn. And as a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members that you surround yourself with. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. It's like having a top-tier NBA scouting department for your small business. They find the most qualified candidates candidates, the best members for your team, and help connect you with them. They do that with their job targeting tools. They also go beyond resume data by using insights from your job post company and their 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates out there. You can identify the most qualified candidates with LinkedIn Jobs and connect with them fast and for free. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based off of your job qualifications all in one platform. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. A lot of people want to chalk this Kings loss up to self-inflicted wounds and want to chalk this loss up to second night of a back-to-back fatigue and everything. And I understand the points you're trying to make, but I'm telling you it is disrespectful to the Philadelphia 76ers to simply say that, because the 76ers absolutely beat the Kings tonight. I thought Montrezl Harrell, for Joel Embiid not playing, I thought Montrezl Harrell did a phenomenal job against Domantas Sabonis. Montrezl Harrell made Sabonis work for every little bit of what Sabonis had tonight, especially on the glass. Montrezl Harrell is a force. He is a wrecking ball down there. He is a disruptor. And what he does is, even if you're getting positioning, Montrezl Harrell is in there poking the ball away, not allowing you to secure an easy rebound. We saw a lot of deflections or loose balls that ended up in second chance opportunities for the Sacramento Kings. Again, the expectation should be that the Kings secure these rebounds and not let Montrezl Harrell affect the game and affect the glass as much as he did. But that work rate that Montrezl Harrell shows off, that really killed the Kings, and it really hurt Domantas Sabonis, who we thought finished with a triple-double in this game. He just barely got his double-double, which was 10 assists and the 16 points that he had. He got that last assist with only like a couple minutes remaining, so his double-double streak was almost broken. And it looked like they gave him a rebound right at the end of the game to achieve that triple-double. They ended up taking that rebound away, so Sabonis still remains at 5 triple-doubles in the season. 6 is the sack-era franchise record. By the way, the non-sack era, just the Kings' overall franchise record for triple-doubles, I think, is Oscar Robinson with 41. So Sabonis isn't touching that, so we don't have to worry about that. But for the sack era, we thought that Sabonis tied it tonight. He actually did not. Sabonis, even if he had finished with that triple-double, even though he did finish with a double-double, Sabonis did not look very good in this game. Sabonis was not nearly as dominant as I expected him to be with Joel Embiid out. And the Kings kind of struggled because of that. I'm not saying it's all on Domantas Sabonis. It's not all on one guy at all, but I had higher expectations for Sabonis' performance in this game. A lot of that I have to take off of Sabonis and put the credit onto Montrezl Harrell for the way that he played and how aggressive he played. I thought the 76ers in the second half defensively stepped up in a major way. They had some incredible defensive stops and possessions in that second half, where the Kings were trying to move the ball. They were trying to run through Domantas Sabonis in the high post. De'Aaron Fox was trying to attack the basket. They were sliding. They were staying in front of guys. They clearly were jumping the passing lanes on Sabonis, not allowing him to get as comfortable passing the ball. Even though he finished with 10 assists, the passing lanes were not easy for Sabonis tonight. Like, I thought the 76ers as a team stepped up and played winning basketball. And again, this is who the 76ers are, even if they're missing their 2 stars. The Philadelphia 76ers have championship or bust aspirations in the Eastern Conference. I don't have to be a Philadelphia sports fan to know that. It's championship or bust for Philly. And even when you have James Harden and Joel Embiid out, there are enough talented players on this roster to still be able to play hard and overcome adversity and win games, especially on the defensive end of the floor. That's what they did. Tyrese Maxey had a big game high 32 points. Also, Tobias Harris, even though he fouled out, had some big moments. Montrezl Harrell, already talked about, had some big moments. Shake Milton is really, really good. Like, this team can step up and win games like this and get their hands dirty. That is the sign of a great team. Look at what the Memphis Grizzlies have done and are doing. They were missing Jaren Jackson Jr. for a good portion of this season. That didn't really matter. Last season, they were missing John Morant for a long period of time. That really didn't matter. I think they've been missing Desmond Bane for a decent portion of this season. That hasn't mattered. Like, the Memphis Grizzlies are a team that can overcome those adversities consistently because it's different guys who are able to step up, know their role, and understand that, especially on the defensive end of the floor tonight, that is where they could change this game around, and that is what they did. I give them a ton of credit. And the fact that they held the Kings to 22 points in a quarter, like, this Kings offense is the best in the NBA. the best in the NBA. 22 points in a quarter does not happen for this Kings team. That is a clear example of how in that third quarter, that defense stepped up and used their defensive momentum to also get their offense going, and they started hitting some outside shots that they were missing in that first half. Now, another thing we need to be brutally honest about is the Kings bench. Kings bench has to be way better, and not just because they've been struggling as of late. On second night of back-to-backs, this is where I really bring the second night of back-to-back point up. When you're coming off of the night before, 24 hours earlier, less than 24 hours really, leaning heavily on your starters like the Sacramento Kings did to win that Oklahoma City Thunder game, this is where the bench really needs to make their stand. And Malik Monk looked like he was going to do that in the first half. He scored 9 points in the first half. He finished the game with 9 points. Like, Malik Monk has been struggling, especially from three-point range as of late. He went 1 of 5 from three-point range tonight. He's 1 of 14 over his last 4 games from three-point range. I think he's in the low 30s. Three-point shooting percentage, which is not good. We expect that to be better, but it's not just Malik. I mean, Chimezie Metu didn't really do too much. Unfortunately, he got hurt, had a scary non-contact injury, left in his own power. I think he's okay, but we'll have to wait for any update from that. Rashawn Holmes came in, didn't really do anything. Trey Lyles, very disappointing in this game. Like, the Kings bench was really bad, and they were dominated by Philly 49-20. On games like tonight, second nights of back-to-back, where the starters, who all finished with double figures, played well enough for the Kings to win, that letdown is really significant and really apparent. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by Built Bar, and we're in January. It's New Year's resolution season, and look, you don't have to give up on your New Year's resolutions to eat healthier or to get in shape, to lose weight, maybe to put on muscle. You don't have to give those up so easily just because you feel like you have to completely drop those treats and those sweets that you enjoy, that you look forward to in order to accomplish those goals and accomplish those resolutions. Built Bars, Built Protein, their protein-infused marshmallow puffs, and their granola bars are 3 treats that you can enjoy that will satisfy that sweet tooth without hurting your resolutions and making you feel bad for snacking on those candy bars and those things that you enjoy for dessert, sometimes before dinner, sometimes, most of the time, hopefully, after dinner. Built Bars, protein-infused bars covered in 100% chocolate. So many incredible flavors for you to try, but here's the real kicker. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. That is the average on each of these Built Bars. And again, the protein-infused marshmallows, just as delicious, just as good for you. Same thing with the granola bars. These are great treats. They have amazing flavors like brownie batter and churro, if you're into that. And now you don't have to go to Built.com to order your box. You can go to your local Sam's Club or Walmart. Go to the pharmacy section, grab a box, give them a try. I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed. Kings and Grizzlies on Monday. I'm really looking forward to this game. I really think it's going to be a fun atmosphere inside the Golden One Center. I seem to be on an island. I really like the Grizzlies team. I know they're not very likable right now, and they kind of have an us versus the world FU mentality. I kind of dig it. I like the team. I like what they bring. I like how exciting they are. I think they're a fun story. I don't like them as much as the Sacramento Kings, and I would love to see the Kings kick the you-know-what out of them and kick their ass here on this home floor and really make some noise as the 3rd seed, with the Grizzlies currently sitting in the 2nd seed. But just like the Philly game, we thought the Philly game tonight, that game is going to be a very tough game for Sacramento, and I expect Philly to be the favorites. I expect Philly to come into this building and walk in expecting to handle their business and walk out with a W. And again, it's a great opportunity for the Kings to show lessons that they learned, hard lessons that they learned from tonight, and reincorporate those lessons into Monday. I fully believe the Sacramento Kings will be competitive in that game. I believe the Sacramento Kings should have a chance to win that game, and hopefully they are able to pull it out to get back on track. But it's a big game. I'm expecting a great atmosphere, and I hope some of you, if not all of you, can make it out here to the Golden One Center to enjoy it. I want to hear from you, though. How are you feeling after tonight's game? Are you melting down? Are you really, really frustrated? Are you willing to just kind of bunch this up into a paper ball and throw it over your shoulder and forget about it? How are you feeling? Let me know at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, and leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. I also want to hear from you your thoughts on the Washington Wizards as a trade partner, because I am going to have one of our hosts from the Locked On Wizards podcast join me. I have that scheduled this week. We're going to talk a little bit about Kings and Wizards as trade partners, pieces like maybe Kyle Kuzma that the Washington Wizards could be looking to move that maybe the Kings will be interested in, what that would cost. Also get the Wizards opinion on the Kings trade assets like Rashawn Holmes or maybe Terrence Davis or whoever. So we'll hear from them and get that perspective. So if you have any specific questions or things that you want me to ask about and talk about with the Locked On Wizards podcast this upcoming week, please let me know. Would love to hear that feedback from you. Also, I would love to have you join me. As of right now, the plan is for me to do the first ever live Locked On Kings podcast on Friday. So that is the plan. It might change. Keep posted for the changes. I hope I don't have to change anything. I'm tired of changing plans and not following through on what I said I want to do. I've been thinking about doing a live podcast for a while. Have never really done one, but would love to have that interaction with the chat and interaction with you listening live, be able to answer your questions, hear your takes, see your takes, things like that. And maybe if it goes well, I'll expand upon it and do more live shows in the future. But if you would please join me for that, it would be awesome to be able to interact with you, and I hope that you could join on YouTube for that. And then audio listeners, once that live podcast is done, I'll post the podcast like normal for you to listen to. So it'll be a different experience for me, but hopefully it goes well, and hopefully it'll be something that you enjoy. So again, the plan is to do that on Friday, and I'll let you know what time and if anything changes in the build-up to that. So thank you so much for your support. Sorry, tonight's podcast is not nearly as fun as the last handful have been over that win streak, but hopefully the Kings can get another win streak going, and that would be pretty incredible for this Kings team. Look, the light is still very bright around this team. There's still a lot to be excited about, a lot to be optimistic about. Tonight is a bump in the road, a big pothole that hopefully doesn't completely knock the tires off of things, and I don't expect it to for this group. And I expect you and I to continue to be along for hopefully a fun ride to the playoffs with this group. Let's see how they can respond to it on Monday against the Grizzlies. And I can't wait for you to join me on the post-game podcast after that game. I can't wait for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you so much for your support. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.